Sonia Faruqi, Project Animal Farm, An Accidental Journey into the Secret World of Farming and the Truth About Our Food. Ever wondered how mass-produced meat from the supermarket impacts our world? Dive into Sonia Faruqi's book, Project Animal Farm, An Accidental Journey into the Secret World of Farming and the Truth About Our Food, to discover the globalized food industry's hidden secrets. This eye-opening journey exposes the disturbing living conditions of animals in factory farms, their effects on employees, and the environmental impact of meat production. Learn about poorly regulated labels like free-range and organic, and explore better farming alternatives for a more sustainable future.
The dark side of meat production. With the world shifting towards mass production in the food industry, the conditions of mega plants where animals are raised and slaughtered have also worsened. The new era of globalized mass production has made meat cheaper and globalized, but at what cost? With the steep rise of factory-style plants that can now produce more meat than small pastoral farms ever could, animals and workers have to pay the price. The cruelty experienced by animals raised on factory farms is heartbreaking as they live out their entire lives in misery. The workers, on the other hand, face mental and physical dangers, including a higher risk of developing an incurable cough or asthma. The book raises profound concerns about the food industry because, in the end, the choice of what we eat and where it comes from is still ours to make. Inside the horrors of factory farming. Author Sonia Faruqi reveals the horrific conditions chickens in egg factories are forced to live in. The birds are cramped into tiny, dirty cages stacked on top of one another with little to no cleaning. Chickens living in these conditions experience high levels of stress and are frequently driven insane, leading to cannibalistic tendencies and self-harm. The conditions also lead to genetic modification, resulting in hens dying from laying up to 300 eggs per year and some birds being unable to walk. The author's research also includes pigs who fare even worse. This heartbreaking exposé opens readers' eyes to the brutal realities of factory farming. Pigs as products. Pigs, one of the most intelligent and social animals, are seen as mere commodities in the meat industry. They are bred for maximum meat and litter production, resulting in rapid cycles and overweight pigs. Larger pigs are confined to small crates where they can't move, and sows are forced to give birth in painful, cramped conditions. Antibiotics are often overused on the animals, leading to antibiotic resistance. Piglets are mutilated to prevent fighting, with some farmers even castrating them without anesthetic. All of these practices dehumanize these sensitive creatures and treat them as mere products of an industry. Suffering in the slaughterhouse. Despite protective laws, the slaughter of animals is often painful and unchecked, with workers and inspectors subject to the psychological toll of their environment. Have you ever thought about how animals are slaughtered? Even those raised in decent conditions may end up suffering during the slaughter process. In fact, animals are often killed improperly and without inspection. Regulations dictate that animals be stunned before being slaughtered, but this rarely happens within the 15-second time frame. Workers are typically not trained to kill animals painlessly and often disregard the proper stunning process. As a result, animals are killed while still conscious, causing untold pain and suffering. The slaughter process has a lasting impact on butchers as well. Workers are exposed to constant cruelty, blood, and death, leading many to quit within the first few months or suffer from severe psychological problems. Even inspectors tasked with checking the process may be incentivized to overlook violations of protective laws due to their employment by the slaughterhouses they are supposed to monitor. As a result, the animals we depend on for food suffer needlessly, and the people who work in this industry pay a high price as well. The misleading labeling of animal products. The labeling of animal products can be misleading, with vague definitions and loose regulations. In the US and Canada, free-range only requires some outdoor access, but even this isn't clearly defined and can be neglected by factory farms. Organic farms have slightly stricter rules, but still fall short compared to European standards. Cows in Canada are sometimes tethered by the neck and forced to stand in their feces, which is banned in the US. The author's visit to a turkey farm revealed that free-range turkeys were kept indoors for months due to a broken fence, never seeing the sun. This exposes the need for greater transparency and stricter regulations in labeling and production standards. The truth about organic farming. Organic farms in the US and Canada have weak regulations, and while organic dairy cows are treated better than factory cows, their treatment is still subpar. Most are only allowed outside for the minimum required 120 days, and when indoors, they're subjected to terrible living conditions. Dairy cows spend most of their lives in tiny stalls where they can't move and are shocked with electric sticks if they try. They're often tied by their necks for days and separated from each other. Calves are kept separate for their first 6 months in the US, decreasing the species' genetic diversity. The rise of small farms. A new movement of small farms that prioritize animal welfare is emerging. These farmers are against the cruel conditions of factory farming and allow animals to live happily and healthily. However, they face constant threats from larger companies and the dysfunctional process of obtaining organic licenses. Deadly diseases on factory farms. On factory farms, animals are kept in terrible conditions that can breed diseases, making biosecurity a top priority. The diseases that circulate have grown resistant to antibiotics, while genetically modified animals can become laboratories for viruses that can potentially kill millions of animals and humans. Therefore, there have been several epidemics in the past few years. The grim reality of high meat consumption. Meat consumption has risen significantly in the last century. This trend is more prevalent in richer countries where people consume an average of 160 pounds of meat per person per year. The United States is a leader in this trend with an average meat consumption of 175 pounds per person per year. Such massive meat production is detrimental to the environment and contributes significantly to global greenhouse gases emissions. In addition, high meat consumption is one of the leading causes of obesity in many countries, including the United States and Malaysia. Unfortunately, this trend is still increasing, and people should consider adopting healthier lifestyles by shifting to plant-based diets to reduce meat consumption. Otherwise, the consequences will be dire for human health and the environment. Respecting life on the farm. The Lemon Dairy and Egg Farm in Belize provides a promising solution to mistreatment of farm animals. The small family-run farm prioritizes the well-being of their animals and allows them to pasture openly. The farm could easily expand with its ethical treatment of thousands of chickens. Women should also have more representation in the agricultural industry as they tend to be more compassionate and consume more organic products and less meat. Despite purchasing most of the industry's goods, women lack significant representation in leadership positions in major companies like the largest U.S. egg producer, Cal-Maine. Demonstrating compassion towards animals can go a long way towards improving human and environmental conditions on farms. Shift towards sustainable and ethical consumption. The food industry needs to change for a healthier and more sustainable tomorrow. Consumers must shift their behavior and be mindful of the origin of the products they buy, cutting down on meat consumption and supporting smaller-scale pastoral farming. Stricter agricultural laws and regulations are necessary to prevent animal cruelty and ensure better food labeling. The factory farm business must be replaced with sustainable alternatives such as pastoral farming that ensure healthier animal living conditions and prevent environmental issues. We have a lot of work to do if we want our world to be a better place for ourselves and our animals, but it's time for a shift towards sustainable and ethical consumption.
Sonia Faruqi's Project Animal Farm reveals the alarming living conditions of animals in factory farms, the physical and psychological impact on workers, and the industry's negative impact on the environment. The need for change is evident. We must educate ourselves on the realities of the food industry, make more conscious consumption choices, and advocate for stricter regulations and labels. A shift towards smaller-scale pastoral farming and the inclusion of more women in farming leadership roles will help create a better world for animals, our environment, and our collective conscience.